Hello, Christopher here. Had a request to clarify my thoughts on cannabis, and so here we are going to have Musings of a Mariner Sojourning in the Land of Woke, Episode 6B, recorded after Episode 7. Okay, here I am right here in Port Fourchon. I'm Christopher Hunt. I don't know if I said at the beginning. I'm sitting on the boat that I'm working on, and here it goes. My ideas of pot, a lot of it comes from my own personal experience. When I was 16 was the first time I smoked pot. Me and my friends and my brother, my little brother, one of my little brothers, we all kind of became potheads together. Smoked pot all the time. Used to smoke a lot of pot. Between myself, a friend, and my brother, we'd smoke, usually 2 or 3 ounces a week. And it was the Mexican dirt weed or Mexican brick weed is what a lot of people called it. And it came over smuggled from Mexico. And that was 16, and a lot of my friends, that they were smoking pot, a lot of them quickly graduated to harder drugs. Speed was the big thing, crystal meth or biker speed or crank, whatever, different varieties of it. And so a lot of them started selling that. So I had free access to these drugs, and I ended up graduating when I was 17 years old. I graduated to the use of crystal meth, which I had such a open access to free drugs that I did a lot. When I did it a lot. I was kind of the person that would do 10 times more, 10 times harder than everybody else. That was just kind of like the way I was, and being that I was like that, and I knew there was something wrong with it, I was immediately, from the time I was 16, which is when I started smoking pot, I was checking out Narcotics Anonymous meetings and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and doing stuff like that, to get myself, cleaned up. And so after about 3 months of doing this speed stuff, pretty hardcore, I ended up shooting it up this one time, and that kind of scared me straight. For about 2 years I didn't drink, smoke pot, do anything for 2 years. Hooked up with this AA group, and after that time I started smoking pot again, and I became very anti-alcohol, very anti what I called drugs, and I started doing pot and psychedelics. I got very interested in psychedelics, LSD, mushrooms, peyote, and that lasted until I was about 21 years old, and then I had an extreme spiritual experience that changed my life. And from that point, shortly after that experience, I stopped smoking pot, and there's some really interesting stories in there that maybe I'll share with y'all at one point. My original take of this, I had a lot more of that in there, but it was getting very long, so I need to cut that out. But I personally saw pot destroy dozens of people's lives, people that I knew, people that I care about, and pot led very many people that I personally know into hard drugs. Okay, that's anecdotal. That's something that I saw and experienced in my life. So it's not a scientific study, but I know it happened. It happened to me, and it happened to my brothers who were on heroin, and it happened to my friends that are on speed or heroin or dead or in prison. And all of those people started with pot, and from pot graduated to harder drugs. pot led all of us into those harder drugs. Now, that's why in my last video I kind of clarified that, especially for teens or youngsters, or it might have been in the comments underneath, I don't remember, on the Facebook page that I posted it. But certainly it's not so much so for people that are established adults. If you're going to start smoking pot as an established adult, it's a lot less likely to lead you into harder drugs. But for the people who say that it's not a gateway drug, that's fine if you want to believe that. That's fine if you want to think that, feel that, whatever. But for youngsters, for youngins, I guarantee you, pot leads to harder drugs. Not to everybody, but it does. And I saw it many times. So, and as I said, that's anecdotal. That's what I've seen in my life, and maybe people that I know, acquaintances I had, friends I had, family. Maybe all the people in my circles are exceptions to the rule of pot being a gateway drug or not being a gateway drug, but in the whole circle of my entire world, which is bigger than a lot of people's circles in their worlds, in my entire circle, which spans more than this entire country, where I know many people. I've traveled all around the country. I traveled to almost every single state, and I've seen it all around the country. So I might be really unique in seeing that, but I just know it in my experience, in my family, in my friends, and in my acquaintances. I have seen absolutely that pot is a gateway drug to hard drugs. So I'll clarify that. Now I read a few things, like a long time ago I'd read stuff about it, and then just today I have read a little bit more, showing that the use of marijuana, the use of tobacco, and the use of alcohol all predisposes youths to more easily fall into addiction of other kinds of stimuli, of narcotic stimuli. There's that's on a federal website. So cigarettes and booze could do the same thing, but they certainly haven't done it the way that I've seen pot do it, the way I've seen cannabis do it. So that's a clarification on my thought there. Another clarification is I've read studies and I've watched presentations that show that pot does stunt the development of the brain. The brain develops into the mid-20s. So if you're smoking pot before you're around 26 or 27 years old, you are getting a bit of a stunted experience. Like your brain development is going to be stunted somewhat. All right. So that's scientific studies. Is it a huge effect? I don't know, probably not, but it's an effect nevertheless. So there's that. Now, when it comes to legalization, what is my view? My view is I think that cannabis is going to be legal across the entire United States in a very short period. I don't think there's a way to stop that. But my view on that is that we need to have it well regulated. We need to go to perhaps a cannabis cafe system, make sure that it's not allowed to be smoked in public areas where families could be, that it's kept responsibly. I am not completely against the use of marijuana. It helped my mother during one of her chemos. She had many chemos. In one of her chemos, it was very helpful. The other chemos, it was not helpful. But in one of them, it took away the nausea. It helped her to eat and it helped her to sleep. You know, that was very, very good. I have a cousin who uses it for pain, and that cousin grows a specific strain. It's a mix between indica and sativa, and it's very high in CBD and very low in THC, and that helps her very much with her pain, with sciatica pain. You know, so I know that there are legitimate medical uses for marijuana, and I'm not completely against the idea of it being used recreationally. I don't like the idea, you know, but I mean, I could say over the last 19 years, a handful of times I have smoked pot, and you know, times I was at the beach or camping. You know, a friend of mine I used to work with, he would always have several different kinds, and every once in a while he'd talk me into taking a puff. But it's very, very dangerous to have it so casually free as I saw it in the Northwest, up in Washington and Oregon. And I'm sure it's the same way in California and Colorado now. And along with that, like all the ads promoting marijuana use all over the place, it's very, very harmful to our children. It's showing that our priorities are becoming more and more skewed in this country, and I think that we need to, just like we now have all these regulations on ads for tobacco and ads for alcohol, we need to have those same kind of regulations on ads for marijuana. We need to have regulations for where and when marijuana can be smoked. Thank God they've come up with some kind of strip to where they can tell if you smoke pot within the last couple of hours. So if you have an accident in your vehicle or you hit somebody or hurt somebody, they can now start testing to see if you were stoned when that happened. And I think that's a very good thing. Now, when it comes to incarceration for marijuana, where it's not legal, and how it's been in the past for the places that it is legal, my view is, I don't know if it's an extreme view or not an extreme view, but my view on that is that people should not be incarcerated in the prison system for possession of drugs, period. I do not believe that drug possession should ever be a felony, and I believe that it should cause our justice system should no longer be taking that in their realm and bringing people into the prison system and ruining people's lives by giving them felonies. I believe that we should move to a rehabilitation. So if you get caught with hard drugs, you know, at first maybe just have them go to some meetings or something, because most people that get like a little possession charge, they're probably not drug addicts, but someone that's like repeatedly getting arrested with drugs, you know, put them through rehabilitation, through rehab clinics, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day rehabilitation clinics. You know, I've heard it cited that $1 million towards recovery is worth $3 million towards incarceration. Now, one thing is that people being incarcerated makes a lot of money for a lot of people, and that's a big, big problem. But for somebody who, I mean, we've all pretty much accepted now that drug addiction is an illness. So with that in mind, I believe that it should be treated as an illness, not treated as a crime. And that these people should not be getting felonies that are going to follow them around for the rest of their lives, making it harder for them to buy houses, making it harder for them to get good jobs, and making it much easier for them to fall back into drug use because they can't get a good job and they can't buy their own house and they can't get out from under the whole felony following them around. It's just crap. So when it comes to the incarceration aspect of it, no, I absolutely don't agree with it. Now, the exact right type of regulations this should be brought along with the legalization of marijuana. There's what I spoke about there. I think there should be regulation on ads, on promotion. There should be regulations on where and who can smoke. You know, I'm pretty sure they have age limits for marijuana consumption, but those things should be enforced with fines. I think it should be steep fines. You know, maybe a tier fine system. Like, okay, you the first time you're walking down the street, you get caught smoking a joint or a bowl, then you get a $100 fine. The next time a $500 fine. The next time $1,000 fine. So I don't know. I mean, that's just really abstract ideas there. So those are some more of my thoughts on the whole legalization of marijuana. You know, if you want more clarification, I could give you more clarification on the way that I feel about marijuana. But I personally do not think it should be legal. But that's got nothing to do with any of this because it's going to be legal. So the only pertinent ideas I have are, what do we do when it's legal? What do we do where it's legal? And there's that. But even if it wasn't legal, I would say decriminalize it. You know, make it a fine. Don't make it jail time. You know, along with other recreational or addictive drug use. I don't know. I hope this clarifies to you what I think about pot. If you want to know more about my own personal history of pot, my own story, I guess, my story, you could ask me about me or what have you. But I don't really have anything else to say right now. God bless you and have a good day.